What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today. It is the 18th day of November, and here we are sitting at about $91.2 thousand with 9 hours and 46 minutes left in the day. There's a few things that we have to talk about, and first and foremost, I just want to say no, I don't think that we're in a bear market. I'm not there yet. I think it depends on how we bounce what we do here. You know, if we do something like this, maybe we're in a bear market. If we can get above this high, I don't think that we are in a bear market. I really do think that this level holds the keys to salvation as far as are we in a bull market still or not. I believe we are, and we'll go over that as the video continues, but hit that like button, subscribe, and let's get into it. Okay, first and foremost, yes, we have broken out of our megaphone pattern to the downside. We have broken out of this pattern to the downside. That doesn't mean that we can't break back into it. That doesn't mean that this can't be a fake out, but today, 9 hours 46 minutes left, I would like it, and who cares what I would like. That doesn't mean that it's going to happen, but I would like it if we close back above this level, which is at about $94,000. Right? I think Bitcoin can do that, but again, you know, from here to there, that's about a 3% pump. So that's not a small day for Bitcoin, right? Here, this is a pretty big day moving up. I think we can agree, right? Just looking at the chart relevant to all these movements here, this is actually a pretty big day, and that was 4%. I'm asking us to move up 3.1% from here. That's not a small task for Bitcoin. It's not an impossible task. It's just not a small task, right? But if we can get there and ideally higher, closing back above, that would really, really up the chances that this is a fake out to the downside, and that would look really good. That would be something to really be excited about. Now, we can close below this line 2 days in a row, and we can come back up and provide that this is a fake out. That's less common, but it does happen. But typically with fake outs, the sooner that you get back up here, the better the reaction will be. Personally, that's my thoughts anyways. But we did say that if we broke out of this, the measure move is roughly $70,000, right? If we take the high of this pattern to the low of this pattern, we put this measurement at the breakout, because that's how you would do it, right? The breakout happening yesterday, the measure move would take us down right to about $70,000. Okay, so 70K, if this megaphone pattern is to be respected, if we are in fact breaking out to the downside, 70K would be the expected price outcome, okay? Or somewhere thereabouts. Again, measure moves are just ideas. You can reach for them and miss them. You can reach for them and exceed them. You don't have to stop right at this level, but that's just the idea of 70K, okay? That's what this megaphone breakout would suggest, if this is a real breakout, okay? I also want to take a moment here and just kind of take a little accountability, because back here, I remember saying if we can't push through this, and if we come back down and take out this low, it's typically these moments, right? Because we were counting on this to be a partial decline, where you reach for the trend line, you don't. That's typically a bullish signal. That typically means that you're going to break out to the upside. And I remember saying back here, the only time that I've seen these partial declines not work and we actually do break out to the downside still is whenever you throw it back. And we did throw it back. Really, you know, looking back at it, at this point and this point here, we should have anticipated that the price would go below this line. We should have. And we didn't, right? It was like 102K that we expected that we'd go lower. We were calling for prices around 96, 94K, whatever, 98K, but I did not expect that we'd go this low. I did not expect that we'd go below 90K or break below this line. So I want to take a little accountability there, and again, addressing this so that if we ever see it again, you as the viewer, as an analyst yourself, maybe you'll be more aware of this, right? Again, the thing here was we had a partial decline. You hit this trend line, hit this trend line, hit this trend line, hit this trend line with your moves. You had a partial decline here. That typically means you're going to the upside and breaking out. But whenever you give it back, again, anytime that I've seen these partial declines fail and that you break out to the downside, it typically happens when you have the partial decline, you stop and you come back to that level or through it. Once you do that, typically you do actually break out to the downside. I remember saying this back here, and we should have probably held to that a little bit more, because ultimately that's what happened. Every single time I've seen a megaphone pattern where a partial decline fails, it's with this exact kind of behavior. And from here, all this point here to the downside should have been obvious. And I think it was obvious. I was just ignoring the data. So again, I want to address that there. That was my bad. Sometimes you see what you want to see. Sometimes you cling to your guns and it doesn't work out, right? Sometimes you cling to your guns and it does work out. And right now, again, I think it's kind of a bold call to see a pattern of this size. It's lasted for several months, and we're clearly breaking it here. I think it is a bold call to say that we, even though we're breaking down, we clearly are breaking out to the downside, that we still have higher prices to go and that we're going to move up. The main reason why I have a hard time being bearish right here is because everybody else is bearish right here, right? We have extreme levels of fear right now. I think if we click on this, I want to see, is this the lowest levels of fear that we've seen, the highest levels of fear, I guess, that we've seen all cycle? I wonder. Kind of curious here. Let's see. Yearly low, 15. Yeah. Was this? This was back in 2025. Yeah. So the lowest that we've seen was 15, and that was the last time that we saw 15 was April 7th, or no, it was April. What was it? April something. April. Yeah, it was April 7th. I think. April 9th. Okay, April 9th. Um, the lowest levels of fear, the highest levels of fear, I guess, lowest levels on the fear and greed index that we've seen all cycle. All cycle, you guys, right here, right now. So I have a hard time. And the last time we were here, we were at a low point. Now, does this mean that we're not in a bear market? Does this mean that, oh, we have high levels of fear, so this means that we're going to go to new all-time highs? No, that in itself does not mean that. We can have high levels of fear here, recover, form a lower high, and still come back down and be in a bear market. You know, sometimes you do kick off a bear market with fear, just like you kick a bull market off with greed. Just because we hit greed doesn't mean that was the end of the bull market. We had other times to go. It would be odd. It would be odd for this cycle to end. We didn't even end in extreme greed. Our top was barely in greed at all. It would be kind of odd for that. But again, cycle tops typically happen when people don't expect it. And I think a lot of people were not expecting, myself included, that this would be the top. A little fun fact for you, beyond the fact that we are at some of the lowest levels of fear, the highest levels of fear, I guess. I don't know how to say that, right? It's the lowest readings, but the lower you go, the higher levels of fear there are. So the highest levels of fear that we've seen this whole cycle. Beyond that, this is also the fastest drop that we've seen this whole cycle, so far, at least, right? From the top here to this drop, it's been 6 weeks, and we've dropped over 29%. Every other one of these drops that we've had, to get to over 29%, it took longer than 6 weeks. Here, from a high to the 29% drop level, which would have been here, this took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks. A little bit, basically the same, pretty similar, but I feel like this drop's been more tenacious, less forgiving, and definitely faster so far, right? Pretty similar percentage growth, but yet it's a week earlier. We have 5 days left in this week, right? We have 5 days left in this week, so it's definitely a faster move. Here, to get to that same drop, I mean, this was like 4.5 months before we saw anything that was greater than 29%. This is actually one of the fastest, if not by this definition, the fastest drop that we've seen this market cycle. I suppose the fastest drop we saw from a high to a low here was 29%. That did take 1 week. That did take 1 week there. But from the high overall of a consolidation range to the low, if this is the low of what is a overall like larger consolidation phase here, this is a very short amount of time. Is all I'm trying to say. We've dropped at a very fast pace. So the idea there that we might be in a bear market could stem from the idea that we are also dropping faster. Typically, in bear markets, you do drop at a very, very fast pace to kick off these bear markets. Right? Look at here, the end of the bull market last cycle. Bull market here, whenever that ended, we had a very quick sell-off in the first 6 weeks. Here, in the first 3 weeks, we dropped like 40%, high to low. Right? We haven't dropped that much this cycle, but we've had a weaker bull market. Maybe we don't. Maybe we have a weaker bear market and a weaker start as a result of that. You know, I'm open to all these thoughts, but I'm certainly not open to the idea that we have too much lower to go from here in a short amount of time. I really do believe that we are going to bounce just based off of the fear alone. But again, that's not enough to save us and provide that we are still in a bull market. To provide that we are in a bull market still, I think we need to get back above here, right? We need to get back above here and ideally get back into this range of this megaphone pattern. If this is a breakout to the downside, we shouldn't be getting back into this pattern. But if this fear is at high levels like this, I would expect a bounce to happen, and that bounce should take us back into the pattern. So at that point, we're going to be kind of in this weird world where we broke out, but we're back here, but we haven't moved high enough to validate that we're going to move to higher prices. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I want to look at the short-term stuff. I want to stop talking so much. And let's just see what the charts are saying as far as the bounce goes here, beyond just the fear and greed itself, okay? And the extremely, extremely low levels of liquidity that we have. And again, I don't know how CoinGlass does it, because here, if we're looking at this, the shorts stop at about $107,000. I would imagine there's more shorts that are yet to be liquidated at 120K. There's probably shorts that were opened up here that have not closed yet, or shorts that are opened up here that haven't closed yet. I wonder if there is more than $10 billion in shorts. It says 10 billion, but they're just at higher levels, and for some reason CoinGlass doesn't show that data. I don't know, right? I can't imagine that this is the highest level for shorts right here is at 107K for liquidations. I would think that it's higher. But anyways, 10 billion here, 1.5 billion here. That's very low levels of leveraged positions overall, both shorts and longs. The shorts are dominant. That does leave the door open for a short squeeze, but as the days continue to go on, on a daily basis, we still do have about $2 billion in longs. So there are billions of dollars in longs being placed every single day. We can keep moving down until that action stops. But there are a ton of shorts. There are a ton of shorts to be cleared out as well. Just keep that in mind. Looking at the 1 hour time frame here, zooming in, there is a lot of volume. There's a lot of volume here at this low. There's a lot of volume here in this low area. We kind of have, wow, actually this is perfect, isn't it? Wow. It looks, the volume's perfect. The pattern is even pretty perfect here. We have an inverse head and shoulders, I think. And it's a slanted inverse head and shoulders, but it's still an inverse head and shoulders. You take the low to the high of the pattern, you put it at the breakout, which because it's slanted might be like down here, whatever. That would only take us up to 94.6K, but hey, still something up there by the end of today. Is that what it would take to get us back above this trend line here? Let me just see. Let's draw it right. Nice and tight. There we go. Right like that. That would be just enough, I think, to get us back. Wow. So if this inverse head and shoulders pattern is true, and the volume actually looks perfect for it. That's why the pattern itself is kind of wonky, I must admit, but it could be a slanted inverse head and shoulders, just like a very minimal pattern down here. If I'm looking at this right, then we should see, I think we have enough time by the end of this day. The end of the day is right here. I think we have enough time to where we could get back above here. And again, it would be really nice, actually, I think, to close back above this trend line, because if we do, we really do validate the idea that this is a fake out, because again, here, we haven't broken out of this over the past few days. We've actually, and let me make sure that I have this drawn on right, because I'm wicking through a little bit here. Let's put it there. Something like that. Yeah, there we go. Where we're still touching here. We're not wicking through as much here. We didn't close below it here. We didn't close below it here. We did close below it yesterday. So if we close below this trend line one day, and then the next day we leave behind a very big wick, and then we're closing back above it here, while we're in extreme levels of fear, that gives me hope that this was a fake out, and that gives me hope that we will, in fact, just with a very short amount of time, come all the way back to the upside here. Anybody see that post on X.com where the highest IQ holder in the world was saying that Bitcoin will be worth 220,000 in the next 45 days? Isn't that crazy? That'd be pretty crazy if that happened. I don't know if that's if that was an AI fake or if that's real. I think it's real. I want to believe it's real, but 45 days would be the end of the year. So the highest IQ record holder in the world is saying that we're going to see a $220,000 Bitcoin in 45 days, which would mean that Bitcoin itself will see a 140% growth in the next 45 days. That's pretty damn fast. I want to just show you what that would look like. I don't know if we see this. I know that there's a lot of people that it's kind of a meme right now that the highest IQ holder is saying this, but that just because he's smart doesn't mean that he will be right? It doesn't mean just because he has a high IQ or claims to have a high IQ doesn't mean that he can see the future, right? Maybe he can. Maybe these words will sour as time goes on, but that kind of a movement there, if we're looking at it, I mean, there's no move that compares to this, right? We haven't seen anything of the sorts, kind of at this pace here, kind of. We kind of saw that pace here, but we just didn't see the length of the move extend. We haven't seen anything of the sort this whole bull market. So effectively, he's calling for not just a crazy move, but a move that is at a pace that we just haven't seen up or down this whole cycle. So if you do believe that 100 or 220K is coming in the next 45 days, just understand what you're believing in here. I don't know why I got caught up on that, but I guess that I got distracted. Anyways, all I'm trying to say again is that there is some hope. There is some hope. We've got the highest IQ in the world saying that Bitcoin will be at new all-time highs here pretty soon. If we're going to be at 220K in 45 days, we got to be at new all-time highs well before that, right? And then also there's hope here with the fake out potential of this pattern if this inverse head and shoulders plays out and we do get back above, I think it would be about 94.2, 94.3K by the end of today, but it needs to happen by the end of today, right? Looking at this 1 hour time frame, looking at the RSI is beat up. It's very bearish. The stochastics are bullish here. The MACD does have bullish divergence. We're moving up. So 2 bullish indicators versus 1 bearish one. I'll go with the bullish effect and take the upside there. A lot of volume at the lows makes me think that we'll move higher. High levels of fear makes me think we'll move higher. 4 hour time frame here. If we're looking at this, there is no bullish divergence at all on the RSI. It kind of looks like you have a double bottom though. Kind of does look like you have a double bottom, which could be nice. We have broken out of our downtrend, turned it into a sideways trend, and typically after that comes the upwards trend. So we'll see. But you can move sideways for a long time. There's no rule that says we have to move up right now. So we'll just see how this all plays out. The stochastics look bullish, would make me think that we move higher. It's pretty odd that we stopped here. Typically you get into the overbought zone. I definitely didn't see that coming. I would have, and this is what really made me feel confident that that was the low and that we would break out to the upside. It's very odd that you stopped here. You don't typically stop here. But anything can happen. You can stop at any point that you want. The MACD does have bullish divergence as well, and I don't think that we've seen that move come to pass. So something back around 95K is definitely coming our way, and depending on the timing of it, that could be very promising. Again, guys, if we close back above like 94.2K by the end of today, maybe it's 94K itself, 94.5, I don't know, somewhere around there. If we can close above there, back above that trend line, that lower descending trend line that we've been in since July. If we can close back above there, you know, this lower low trend line here since July, if we can close back above there by the end of the day, there is some hope. There is some hope because again, we can't deny at this point. We can't deny, and I'm not going to deny that we are breaking out of this pattern. We absolutely are. There's no way around it. We have broken out of this pattern to the downside. We are in a bearish breakout right now of an overall very large multi-month pattern, but just like if we broke out to the upside, I'd be very ecstatic. Here, I'm not so pleased. I'm a little bit sad, right? But if we broke out to the upside and then the next day we broke back in, I would be a little bit cautious. I'd be a little bit freaked out. I'd be like, what the hell's going on here? That shouldn't be happening. We should be moving up higher. Why aren't we moving up higher, right? And that would freak me out. That doesn't mean we can't inevitably move up higher, right? Just because we fake out here, we do this, and then we consolidate, doesn't mean that we can't inevitably move down lower. But a fake out to any degree to the upside would have me worried that we do go lower. A fake out to any degree to the downside does give me hope that we can go higher and that we can reverse this overall move as a whole. We'll see. Time will tell. We're starting to come up here, which is nice to see. 1 hour time frame. We already did that. Let's look at the 4 hour time frame. Okay. 4 hour. Oh, we did the 4 hour just now too. So we have bullish divergence on the 4 hour, bullish divergence on the 1 hour daily time frame. Looking at this, there is no bullish divergence on our MACD at all. Let's actually just look at this real quick. I'm kind of curious. We have not seen our oscillators this low. Wow. You guys, look at that. We've not seen our oscillators on the MACD this low since the beginning of our, or I should say the end of our last bull market, the beginning of our bear market kind of. I guess the beginning was more in November, but here, this was the last time that we saw readings this low on the MACD. Just look at how fast you drop too. That's what you need. You need it, and the move is different. This move is way smaller than that move, but relative to this price action, this is a pretty fast move. It's kind of crazy. I want to be clear too. Just because the oscillators are this low doesn't mean that we can't go lower, but it is interesting how low they are. You see some of the highest readings that we've seen in several years right here, and we were at a topping point there as well, right? Some of the lowest readings, and we did go higher, right? From here, that's where the highest point in the MACD oscillators were. We still went higher over the months to come. We could go lower over the months to come, but we were definitely at a topping point nonetheless, right? We might be at a bottoming point here, and that makes the most sense to me. But looking at these daily indicators, looking at the RSI, we are very oversold. We're very oversold. We haven't been this oversold really since February of this year. Stochastics are oversold as well. There's really nothing to go off of. I mean, we're at a low point. That's all I can say, right? Nothing really with these. There's not really much lower that we can go, but with the indicators, but we could definitely go lower with the price. We have filled the CME gap, right? There was one last CME gap that we had here, BTC futures. We look at this. we did fill the gap that I think for months been like, we're never going to fill that gap. I would have never assumed that we'd fill that gap. There are plenty of gaps below that we haven't filled and that won't be filled, right? There's a gap right there at 59K that probably never fills. There's a gap down here at 39K that never fills. There's a gap here at 29K. Not every CME gap fills, but all of these ones did. We have filled that gap, and now that we have, maybe that is the secret sauce. Maybe that's what allows us to go higher now that we've done that. I don't know. Looking at the weekly time frame here, the weekly RSI is at the lowest levels that we've seen this whole cycle. We have lower lows in the RSI while providing higher lows in the price. That is hidden bullish divergence. It's actually a good thing. The stochastics are at the same levels that we were every single time that we found support this cycle. The MACD is right at the zero, an area that we found support at the oscillators here, here, and here every single time this cycle. It's not that we can't go lower, but we just are seeing a lot of signs here that were similar to what we saw here, that were similar to what we saw here, that were similar to what we saw here. Across the board, across several different indicators. The only things that are making me bearish right now is the fact that we have closed below, that we have closed below the 50-week moving average, right? That's something to be a little bit cautious of, right, and to be aware of. To get back above it, I think would be a good thing. Right, maybe it's significant, maybe it's not. And I think if we can close back above it, it might provide that this is not that significant. And right, we compared this to the S&P 500 every time, or not every time, but statistically speaking, most of the time over the last 10 years that the S&P has closed below the 50 on the 50-week moving average. It's actually been a good time to buy. Right, if we look at this here, SPX. Let's see. Why does it keep doing this? There we go. We look at the 50-week here. Whenever we closed below it here, that was a perfect time to buy. Whenever we closed below it here, it wasn't the best time to buy. If you waited a week or two, it was a better time to buy, but that wasn't the beginning of a bear market. And still, relatively speaking, if you bought here and you waited 2 months, it actually was a good time to buy. Much better than here, right? Here, this was the beginning of a bear market. Here, this was the COVID crash, so it's kind of a one-off, right? Here, relatively good area to buy. After that close, it was actually a relatively good area to buy. We did go lower, but still a relatively good area to buy for the long term. Here we closed right at it, not below it. Let's see. All these times here that we closed below, we weren't in a bear market here, but these were good areas to buy. It was a little bit of a lull, but still a good area to buy below the 50. Here you closed right below the 50. That was a good area to buy. Here you did the same thing, great area to buy. Here you closed right below it. That was a good area to buy. This was not a bear market. All of this, if you waited for that week to close below, you bought at really ideal levels. I think I've made my point. All I'm trying to say is, we compare Bitcoin to the traditional markets a lot. Closing below the 50 isn't that big of a deal on the weekly time frame for the SPX. Maybe it's not that big of a deal for Bitcoin, and I think we might provide that to be true if we can close back above the 50, and I do think that we will. Again, high levels of fear, low levels of longs, makes me think that we're overdue for a bounce, right? The news is negative. We look at Bitcoin. Let's just do crypto news. Crypto news here. So there is an outage. Okay, so it's not just me. See, I was wondering. Cloudflare outage, global disruption takes crypto sites offline. Okay. Yeah, so okay, that is happening right now. I thought it was just me. I thought something was going on. Okay, cool. That's good to know. That's like recent too. All the news is negative though. All of the news is negative. Every single bit of this news is negative. And typically when we have high amounts of negative news, it's not here. It's here, right? We had high negative news here, high negative news here for Bitcoin, for crypto, all that stuff. It's the same thing, right? So I really do think that we're going to get a bounce here. I don't think I have anything else that I want to say. I'm just rambling at this point, so I'm going to end the video there. Hit the like button, subscribe, take care of yourselves. And again, where we are here, it's not that we can't go lower, but where we are, we've got bullish divergence on our 1 hour and our 4 hour. We haven't seen that move happen yet. We've got high levels of fear. We've got FUD out the wazoo on the news, and all of our weekly indicators are at the same levels that they have been every single time that we found a low point this cycle. Not only that, but from a price perspective, we just wicked. We found direct support at prior resistance and prior support back here. We're actually having a hell of a reaction. Right now, if I'm correct, this could be some kind of minor inverse head and shoulders pattern, and if it is, that should take us back above 94K by the end of the day, and as long as we do that, then we can provide a scenario where this breakout did happen to the downside, but it was actually a fake out, and we actually closed back up here by the end of the day. Getting back above this trend line, I think, is a good first step in vindicating yourself that we are not in a bear market, that we are in fact still in a bull market. But that's the first step. We need to get above there. And it doesn't have to happen by the end of today, but the sooner it happens, the better, right? You don't want to be living below here, because that really just validates that we are in the middle of a breakout to the downside, and that will allow this $70,000 target to come online. I'm not blind to this. I'm not putting my head in the sand. I'm just very stubborn right now. I feel like the market is manipulated, and I feel like there are a lot of people who have capitulated at probably the worst time, right? A lot of people here have capitulated thinking that we're in a bear market. And I'm under the impression that it's the worst time. But we'll see. I've got experience in the markets. This is my third cycle itself. I can be wrong. I've been wrong before. There are a lot of people who capitulated here who have just as much experience as I do, or even comparable, a little bit less, a little bit more, whatever. But I got nothing else. I'll see you guys on the next one. Hit the like button, subscribe, take care of yourselves. Bye.